Hey guys, so in this lesson we're going to talk about special challenges in hair color and corrective solutions. We're going to be talking a lot about corrective hair color, gray hair. I'm going to introduce you to what a filler is and a couple of other things that are going to help in those special challenges that you're going to face in the industry. And maybe hear why you are in class with us as well. As you progress through the program, as you work in the marketplace and get some experience under your belt, you're going to begin to do more and more of these color corrections, and I want you guys to be familiar and know how to tackle those color corrections. So the first thing we're going to talk about is gray hair. So in each color service, you guys are going to have a unique challenge or challenges. It may be more than one issue in the color service. Again, to start these color services off correctly, we want to make sure that we have that client consultation down pat. You guys are going to meet with these clients. You're going to get on the same page. You're going to talk about maintenance. You're going to talk about what they have and what they want. Is it possible? Is there a better option? And before you begin that service, make sure that you're on the same page with that client. You got to make time for that hair and scalp analysis, because we all know that texture, density, porosity, and elasticity play a big role in our hair color services as well. So with gray hair, let's talk about some challenges and solutions here. Gray hair is caused by the reduction of pigments in the cortex. So this means as you age, you are going to lose your melanin, which is your pigment it lives in your cortex. As you age, this reduces, the pigment does. So what gray hair is essentially is unpigmented hair. So gray, white, salt, and pepper, which is a mix of the two, they all have characteristics that are going to present very unique coloring challenges. Okay, so I know you have seen this before. You have clients that have yellowed hair for several different reasons. I have seen this in older people. I have seen this in young people that lay in the sun. I have seen this again by smokers. It does not affect just an age group. It can be anybody. So the causes of yellow hair are some styling aids. So some products can cause that. Smoking, believe it or not, everything that goes in your body has to come out of your body. So that nicotine comes out of your hair and gives you like a yellow tinge to your hair. Medication can sometimes give you that yellow cast or that yellow tinge over your hair. And then sun exposure, not just outside, but also laying in a tanning bed, things like that, can also change the color of your hair drastically and give you that yellow tinge or cast over your hair. So let's talk about formulating for gray hair. Okay, so a level 8 or lighter may not give complete coverage of gray. Okay, so there is a lower concentration of dye in lighter colors. So as you go up on the level system, 8, 9, and 10, you start losing that concentration of dye in the colors. So it's not always guaranteed that your level 9, your level 10s are going to be 100% gray coverage. So just keep that in mind. Level 7 and darker can be used to create pastel and blonde tones. This is going to provide you with better coverage. For those clients that are 80 to 100% gray, hair color within the blonde range is generally more flattering than a darker shade. The reason why that is if you have 80 to 100% gray hair, then you're lightening. You want to stay lighter. If you put that dark color and cover up your gray hair, then what's going to happen is when it grows out, you're going to have that line of demarcation. Rather it be a 3-week grow out or rather it be a 6 to 8 week grow out, you're going to have that nasty line of demarcation, and it's just going to be like light to dark. There's going to be a huge contrast. Whereas if you have highlights or you keep a lighter color, then the transition is going to be much easier and look a lot better as well. The lighter level of the artificial color may be selected to give a warm or cool finished color depending on the client's skin tone. So again here, just because, you know, and I like to talk about this a lot because people get in their minds that when I say blonde, you mean ice blonde. Everybody does not look good as an ice blonde or a cool blonde. It depends on those skin tones, your eye colors, your personal preference, all of those. But skin tone and eye color have a lot to do with it. Maybe you look better as a beigey blonde or a softer, like a wheat blonde, in being able to blend that gray hair in a little bit more. Or even if you're covering the gray hair so that the grow out process looks better and is much easier for you. When you're coloring salt and pepper hair, when I say salt and pepper, that is the mix of gray hair and your dark hair. So you have a little bit of both, 50% of both. Remember, color on color is always going to go darker. And I have talked to you guys about this in class before. So it's like taking a crayon and drawing on a piece of white paper. Just say I have a brown crayon. And then a couple hours later, I come and draw over that same brown spot on my white paper. I have done nothing but make that a darker brown. Okay? Color on color makes it go darker. So keep that in mind when you are coloring salt and pepper hair. You always want to use a shade lighter than the naturally dark hair. So if that client is a level 5, you maybe want to go up to a level 6 so that it doesn't go darker than a level 5. Going up to a 6 is going to create that level 5. If you are a level 5 and you put a level 5 on it, you're going to go darker. So you're going to be more at like a level 4, a level 3. And that's not going to be what your client wants, and that's not going to be the outcome that you guys want. Okay? So, other considerations when formulating for gray hair. You also want to take into consideration your client's personality, personal preferences, the amount of gray hair, and its location on the head. Okay, so here's a chart, and this chart is also in your book. So it has the percentage of gray hair, semi-permanent, and the formulation, and then it has the percentage of gray hair on the right with permanent color formulation for gray hair. So if you're going to the desired level, 90 to 100%, then you want to choose, if they want to be a level 8, you're going to choose that level 8. 70 to 90%, equal parts of the desired and one level lighter. 50 to 70%, one level lighter than the desired level. 30 to 50%, equal parts 1 and 2 levels lighter. And then 10 to 30% gray, 2 levels lighter than the desired level. This will also help a lot when we're toning. Still, even though you're toning, highlighting, coloring, all of that is different when you're dealing with gray hair. Now, the percentages for permanent color, 90 to 100% gray, you're going to go to that desired level. 70 to 90, 2 parts desired and 1 part lighter. Level, 50 to 70, equal parts desired and lighter level. 30 to 50, 2 parts lighter and 1 part desired level. And then 10 to 30, 1 level lighter. Again, this chart is in your book. So I talked about the considerations that we have when formulating gray hair: client personality, personal preferences, and the amount and location of the gray hair. Okay, so tips for achieving gray coverage. All right. You're always going to use 20 volume developer when you are covering gray hair. Again, covering, not necessarily blending, but covering gray hair. and I'll explain that a few minutes exactly why. But you want to open that cuticle up a little bit more so that those dye molecules can get into that cortex. Formulate at a level 7 medium blonde and deeper for best gray coverage. So what we're saying is somebody that is a high lift blonde, those colors are your 11, 12, 13s. They're above 10. They are not necessarily designed for gray coverage. To create a lighter result, you're going to formulate at a level 7 for the base color and add highlights to create that balanced blonde. So if you have that 8, 9, and 10, like I said previously, you may not get that 100% gray coverage that you're looking for, because as the shades get lighter, you're losing a lot of that pigment. Okay, so how can I do that? So use a level 7 base and then go in and highlight them. Now, if they want to be really blonde, you're going to highlight them more. If they just want, when I glance at you, to be half and half blonde, half brown, then you're going to do half and half. But that is kind of how we get that balanced blonde look, is with highlights. You cannot do everything with color. You're going to use 20 volume developer. Like I said, you're doing that because you want to open up that cuticle, get into that cortex. That's where the magic happens. Process the color for the full processing time based on your manufacturer's directions. If it is gray, we definitely always process for 45 minutes. Again, that is based on the manufacturer's directions. Every color line is different. You're going to add neutral tones to the formula. So the reason why you do this, guys, is because when we say a neutral, we mean a 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 8, or 7N, 6N, 5N, 4N, 8N, any of those. All of those neutral colors have all 3 of the primary colors in them. They have equal parts of red, blue, and yellow. Okay? Gray hair has absolutely no pigment. So to keep it from looking too gold or too drab, you want to always put that neutral in there that has all 3 of the primary colors. It balances it out. So if your client is 25% gray, you're going to use 25% of that natural tones in your formula. If the client's 50% gray, you're going to use 50% of your formula should be that neutral, and 75% gray, you're going to use more. You're going to use 75% of neutral in your formula. So let me give you some examples here. If I have a client who is a level 7 and she's gray, I'm just doing a retouch and I'm putting a 7 on my client, and she's 50% gray, but she also likes a little bit of gold in her hair. So let's just say I use a 7 and a 7-3, which is a gold in Wella, and that's the color line that I'm using at the time. I'm going to do equal parts of the 7/0 and the 7/3. Now, if you do not, what can happen is, again, that gray has absolutely no pigment, so it's going to take different if you do not put a neutral in there. It's going to grab it and it's going to hold on to it, especially with your colors like your reds, your ashes, your violets, those strong blue base colors. It's going to grab them, make them look extra cool, dark, drab, or maybe grab onto that warmth. What I mean by that is if you have someone who is 75% gray and they're getting a 6 red, can they get red with gray hair? They can. You just have to know how to formulate it. Okay? If you have again, a 6 and she wants to be a level 6, she wants to be red, so I'm doing a 6-4 on her. I'm going to have to come in there with a level 6 as well. I'm going to use 75% of my level 6, and then I'm going to use 25% of my 6/4. If not, what's going to happen is it's going to continue, it's going to take pink, to that hair, because if you have gray hair, white, and you put red on it, it's going to become pink. Make sure you always have a neutral in your formula when you're covering gray hair. Anything 25% or higher especially. So another thing that is very common is pre-softening. So the process of treating gray, gray is very resistant. It does its own thing. That cuticle is very dense. It does not like to open. So to allow for a better penetration of color, we pre-soften. Pre-softening is going to raise that cuticle layer of the resistant hair to allow for better penetration of color. A pre-softener acts like a stain to the hair. You're going to apply this to resistant areas, process for 15 minutes, refer back to the manufacturer's instructions. You're going to blot your pre-softener off with a towel, and then you're going to do your final color formula. So you never rinse it out, you blot it off. Process according to the instructions. Again, what you're doing is you're opening that cuticle so that it can accept that color better, or your color formula better. This is very common. My mother is one of these. I have to do it on her. She is very, very resistant. Every time I do her new growth, I have to go in there and pre-soften first, process for 15 minutes, and then I go over it with my color formula. And it turns out so much better. If not, it does not cover. Within a week, it starts coming back through, and it's not new growth. It's just where the color did not cover like it should have. Okay, so let's talk about a color correction. So there are rules for sure. One of the first rules is do not panic. Okay, so this is something that you're going to have to take small bites. I was talking in lab today about hair color, and I told you that if there are several problems, several bands, several issues going on in the color correction, you can only fix one thing at the time. There is not going to be one formula that is a cure-all for the entire color correction. There's just not. You want to determine the true nature of the problem. So we want to know what the problem is, and we want to know what has caused this problem. You're going to develop a solution. You're going to take it one step at a time. You're never going to guarantee these results. You're going to talk to them. You're going to tell them, be honest with your client. You know, this is what I can do. This is what I can offer. You know, we can see where it goes. I can make it better, but maybe I can't fix the issue. Maybe it's going to take a couple of times to fix the issue. Whatever it is, just never guarantee those results. And of course, always strand for accuracy. You always want to do that strand test. So discussing some damaged hair. So blow drying, of course, flat irons, wind, harsh shampoos, the sun, salt water, chlorinated water, chemical services, our environment, it all takes it takes a toll on the condition of our hair. Coating compounds such as hairspray, styling agents, some conditioners, they can block or interfere with that color penetration. Okay? So what are we looking for damaged hair? We're looking for a rough texture. We're looking something that's over porous. So it's not just porous, but it's overly porous. Brittle and dry to touch. Susceptible to breakage. So there's really no elasticity there. Spongy, matted when wet. Another one of those characteristics, when it's spongy and matted when wet, it will not blow dry 100%. Color fading or absorbing too rapidly. What happens here is if your color fades too fast, or if it grabs super dark when you're doing hair, or when you're putting that color on there, then it's damaged. Okay, so what can I do for damaged hair? Okay, so there are treatments. You need to use a penetrating conditioner that can deposit protein oils and moisture-rich ingredients. The purpose is to deposit protein, oils, and moisture into that cuticle cortex layers. Okay, Complete each chemical service by normalizing the pH with an acidic finishing rinse. We have one of these here. It is made for all chemical services, whether it be color, perm. It's called No H2O by Scruples. It is phenomenal. What it does is it brings that pH back down, and so that hair does not remain in that very fragile state. This is going to restore the ability of the cuticle to protect the hair. And of course, this is done after a chemical service to restore. Okay. Postpone any further chemical services until the hair is reconditioned. So you have to be honest with that client. You know, I cannot do it. Or when you finish, if you get to that damaged state, which I hope that's not the case, you know, you cannot put anything else until this is reconditioned. Usually it might take a cut to get it out. Schedule the client for between service conditioning. So maybe every 2 weeks they come in and get that protein treatment or whatever it is that their hair is needing. Recommend retail home care products. This is going to help prepare the hair for the next service. You can get that hair back in shape. Okay, so something that I used a lot in the salon, but I feel like is definitely not talked about enough in our textbook is a filler. So a filler is used to equalize the porosity. So somebody comes in and their hair is very porous on the ends. What's going to happen is whatever the product is, color, lightener, it is going to grab on those ends. Okay, those ends are like a sponge. So a filler equalizes the porosity. Some fillers are ready to use as they come from the manufacturer. Others are a mixture of hair color and conditioner that I can kind of walk you through how to prepare here. So what is a conditioner filler? These are used to recondition damaged, overly porous hair and equalize the porosity so that the hair will accept that color. And not only accept it, but so that the color will be even from strand to strand, from scalp to ends. You don't want any bands in the hair. They can be applied in a separate procedure or immediately prior to the color application. Again, it depends on what you're working with, but a conditioner filler is great. I feel like, especially I've done this several times right before my color application. Okay, so a color filler is a little bit different. This is going to equalize the porosity and deposit the color in one application. Okay, this is used to provide a uniform contributing pigment, and we talked about that in class today. That is when you decolorize the hair and you lighten that hair, what tones are underneath that, okay? So this is to help control that as well. Again, strand to strand, scalp to ends, you want everything to be even. Color fillers are used on overly porous, pre-lightened hair to equalize the porosity. Pre-lightened means you've lightened it and now you're going to tone it. And provide a uniform contributing pigment that complements the finished color. Demi-permanent hair color products are commonly used as fillers. I never use a permanent color. This should always be a demi. A semi or a temporary, can they be used? Yes, but it's not going to be strong enough, to be honest. It's not going to last either. A demi-permanent is going to hold on, causing your color to hold on. As a general rule, if you are going 3 levels or more darker, you always need to use a color filler. So what we're trying to prevent is hair color fading, okay, or grabbing and not being even or having those ugly bands in your hair. Okay, so color fillers are going to accomplish the following goals. They're going to deposit color to the faded ends in the hair shaft. So application is everything. You may not need to apply this from scalp to ends. It may just be mid to ends. It may just be your ends. Help prepare the hair and hold the final color by replacing that missing building block. Most of the time, this is going to be a missing color. Okay, if the hair is really drab, and you want to go back to a more neutral tone, then you're going to need to put in maybe some gold into your hair. And it works both ways. Prevents streaking and a dull appearance. It prevents off-color results. It produces a more uniform and natural-looking color. It's going to produce uniform color when pre-lightening hair back to its natural color. Okay? Again, this is going to be for hair that has faded, for somebody that is going darker, 3 or more levels. Always, because we want that color to hold. We don't want it to, in 2 weeks, them to be back in the salon and say, my color didn't hold, what's going on? So you can always use a color filler to take care of that. So how do I select a color filler? Okay. To correct unwanted hair color, always use a primary and secondary that is missing in the hair. All 3 primary colors must be present to produce a hair color that looks natural. That's what I was talking about earlier. When you're using that neutral, you want that red, that yellow, and that blue. All of those, a neutral has all of those. So they have to be present in order to get that natural look. Okay, color fillers, they can be applied directly from their containers to damaged hair prior to coloring. They may also be added to hair color and applied to the damaged ends. Application is everything in this. Okay, so let's change it up a little bit. I'm going to give you some tips for redheads, for blondes, and for brunettes. Okay, so fading. It is very common, I would say the most common with color treated red hair. Okay, to create those warm coppery reds. So how do I get those? Use a red-orange base color. So you're going to use red-orange, red-gold. To create those hot, fiery reds, you're going to use a red-violet or a true red, like a red, which means more intense, or that red-violet. After permanent color, use a no-lift deposit-only color to refresh. So if you're using permanent color to cover that gray, you want to use your red with your neutral, depending on the percentage of gray that they have. But for the ends, you want to use a demi-permanent to refresh. Okay, you're not going to use the same level. You're going to go up 2 levels. Okay, color on color makes it darker. If gray hair is present, 25% gray, use 25% of a neutral tone. 50% of that neutral tone. 75% of your formula should be that neutral tone. Refresh your reds. So a lot of redheads have the problem of fading. Like I said, it's the most common. So you can refresh these by using a soap cap to brighten the color. Again, a soap cap, we talked about this earlier, is equal parts of shampoo and your color formula. And so you'll emulsify that into the ends. Okay. Tips for brunettes. To avoid orange or brassy tones, when you're lifting brown hair with permanent color, always use a cool blue or a green base. Okay. Again, it's because those contributing pigments underneath that dark brunette hair is going to be orange or brassy. So when you're lifting that out, go ahead and take care of that by using a cool blue or a green ash base. To avoid unwanted brassy tones, do not lighten more than 2 levels above the natural color. Add 1 ounce of natural color to the gray in brunette hair. Natural highlights in a brunette hair should be kept deep caramel colored. Blonde highlights have too much contrast. Of course, if that's what your client wants, that's fine. But again, it's not very appealing to the eyes because it is too much of a contrast. It's going to be like Cruella de Vil. Blonde highlights do not look natural and require very frequent service. So that goes back to they're going to have more maintenance. Do they want that? If you just go to like a caramel color, you can get away with that regrowth maybe not coming in every 4 weeks. You can come in every 12 weeks. Okay, hair color tips for blondes. When you're lightening brown hair to blonde, Remember those contributing pigments, because you're going to have those warm tones. Underneath brunette hair is that orange, that brassy tone. Okay? When covering gray hair with a blonde color, use level 7 or darker for your best coverage. If they want to be lighter, still use that level 7 and go back in there with those highlights. Double process blonding is the best way to obtain a pale blonde result. This means lightening, and then you're going to turn around and tone it. That's your double process. If high lifting blondes that lift only 5 levels are used on levels 4 and below, the result may be a color that is too warm or too brassy. If highlights become too blonde or all one color, lowlights or deeper strands can be foiled into the hair to show that dimension, to give a more natural color. For lowlights, you always want to choose a shade between the highlighted shade and the base color. And you always want to add gold to your formulation. So some common hair color solutions. So these are things that you're going to come in contact with. How do I fix them? Again, don't panic. Okay, so how do I refresh that faded color? If hair appears dull and faded, mix that demi-permanent hair color in the same tonal family, meaning if you are a red, you want to stay with the reds. If you are gold, you want to stay with the golds. If you're ash, you want to stay with the ashes. Stay within 2 levels of your formula. Apply all over, check it throughout, allowing a processing time of up to 10 minutes. That's going to refresh that faded color. Now, a green cast. You get this, when you swim in a pool, a lot of times chlorine will do this to you. You have that green cast in your hair. That has buildup on it. So that buildup is from minerals from well water or chlorine. You may want to purify your hair with a product to remove that mineral buildup. Malibu products are really good for this, but there are several on the market. You can apply a demi-permanent color to neutralize any unwanted color that remains in the hair. I would definitely start with one of those products that are designed to remove the buildup. And then if you still have that green cast, of course you can use something to counteract and to neutralize it. If your overall hair color is too light, okay, and sometimes this is going to be the result of an incorrect formulation, you're going to correct this by applying a demi-permanent color that is 1 to 2 levels darker than the previous formula. Okay, so what if my all over color is too dark? Okay, so a simple solution for this is going to be apply a few highlights, and that's definitely going to be the easiest. Okay, you also may have to correct this base color. Determine how much of the color needs to be removed. If it's something minimal, you are going to go with one option. If it's something drastic, you're going to have to choose another option. If it's drastic, you may have to use a hair color remover where the hair is too dark because of buildup and formulation. Okay. So you're going to apply the hair color remover to the areas that need to be lightened. Process for 10 minutes. I would say check your manufacturer's directions on this. All of these color removers have different directions. These removers are designed to remove artificial pigment from the hair. Once you have achieved the desired color, you're going to rinse and then shampoo. So restoring blonde to a natural hair color. Okay, if you are a level 6 or deeper, if you have a starting regrowth level that is level 6, dark blonde, and deeper, you're going to soften that new growth with a level 6 violet base with 20 volume. Apply to the scalp area. Process for 20 minutes, rinse, and then towel dry. Okay. If you are a level 7 and lighter, again, we're restoring blonde here. If your starting regrowth is level 7, medium blonde, or lighter, you're going to soften that regrowth with a level 8 blonde violet base with 20 volume. Apply to the scalp area, process for 20 minutes. Again, you're going to break the base a little bit. Applying a demi-permanent glaze. Okay, so after you do either one or the other, you're going to apply that glaze. This is 1 ounce of a level 8 neutral blonde, 1 ounce of a level 9 very light blonde. Apply all of this to lightened hair. Do not apply it to the scalp area. Process for 20 minutes. Rinse and towel dry. Okay, this is going to turn into a very light reddish gold. I know you're thinking red. Okay, that's not what I want to do. So then you're going to finally mix the final deposit of the glaze. If you formulated with a level 6, use 1.5 ounces of level 6 dark neutral blonde with a 1/2 ounce of level 4 brown gold base. If you formulated with level 8, use 1.5 ounces of level 8 with a 1/2 ounce of a level 6 golden blonde. Apply the chosen formula starting on the pieces that were over-lightened from the beginning. Work the color all over. Process 20 minutes. Check it every 5 minutes. Again, all of that is when you restore blonde to your natural hair color. So again, what they're doing here, guys, is they're filling the hair. Okay? It just depends on how dark or how light you are. All right, guys, and that is it for this part of the lesson. Thank you.